Yo, what's good, my people? Welcome back to Mandem and Tech, and today we're breaking down a mad important part of CSS, pseudo-classes and pseudo-elements. Now, if you're trying to level up your styling game and get your websites looking leng, this is the video for you. I'll be walking you through what pseudo-classes and pseudo-elements actually are, the differences between the two, and how you can combine them to create advanced styles. Plus, we'll touch on a little concept called generated content. Now, this one's a game changer for next level UI tweaks. And as always, a quick reminder, I'm a self-taught web developer with over 3 years in the game, no degrees, no boot camps, just pure grind. Now, if you're over here thinking this looks too complex, nah fam, you got this. Let's make it happen. All right, let's break down pseudo-classes real quick. Now, these are selectors to help you target elements in a specific state. Now, for example, maybe it's the first element of its type in a container, or maybe someone's hovering over it with their mouse. It's like adding a class, but you're doing it directly in CSS without touching the HTML. Clean, right? Now, what's cool about pseudo-classes is that they cut down on the need for extra classes in your markup. So this makes your code more flexible and easier to maintain in the future. And the syntax is quite simple. They always start with a colon just like this. So let's say if you were to add a hover, you would add it like this to the element. So let me show you a quick example. Let's say if you wanted to make the first paragraph within this article bold and a bit larger. Now what you could do is just add a class like this. So class, and let's put first. Let's save that, Command S or Control S on Windows. And let's write the class first. And let's make the font size, say 120%. And let's make the font weight bold as well. Now you see this works. It's made the first paragraph bold and made the font size bigger. But here's the problem. What if someone wants to add a new paragraph to the top? You'd have to go back and then move that class to the first paragraph. So let's say if we had another paragraph here, let's say example. As we can see here, that first paragraph won't be styled the same way. So we'd need to move that class of first. Let's say if we can copy it and paste it here, both of them will have that. Then we'll have to remove it here as well. So let's see if there's another way to do this. So what we can do is let's remove the class of first on this first paragraph. Well, let's close it. Let's save that. So in here, instead of using the class first, what we could do is target article and then the first, the paragraph within that, and then add first child to that. And if we save that, we can see that that same styling has been applied, but it's applied differently. The first time was using a class. Now this one's using the pseudo element, the pseudo class of first child. So this goes into the article, grabs the paragraph, and the first child is what the style gets applied to. So no matter what gets added, the first paragraph will always stay bold and enlarge without you lifting a finger in the HTML. So we don't need to go back here and change anything. So if we have if we put back that new paragraph of example and save that, we can see that that gets styled instead of the second paragraph. So let's remove that from there. Now all pseudo classes work in this way. They target elements in a specific state. So whether it's last child or first child, so last child grabs the last element, first child grabs the first element, or only child. You could do only child. And this is when something stands alone. Yeah. Or invalid. If we put that here, so invalid, to style messed up form inputs. Now these selectors will save you a lot of time and effort. And also don't forget user action pseudo classes like hover and focus. So let's say if we wanted to, actually let's do another paragraph. So let's do a paragraph here, and let's do a tag with just an empty href, and let's say hover over me. Now what we could do here is apply a few links. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'll just copy it to save me just from writing that all out. But you guys can pause and just see what I've added. So here we've got styled on anchor tags. So if it's a link, if it's been visited, and also hover. So as you can see here, the color is purple and the font weight is bold. Now, when we hover over it, you can see that it changes to this hot pink that we just applied the style to. So with this pseudo class here. Now, pseudo classes are all about keeping your code flexible, efficient, and ready for anything. And trust me, once you start using them, there's no going back. All right, so let's talk about pseudo elements. Now, these are similar to pseudo classes, but instead of targeting existing elements in a specific state, they act like you've added a whole new element to your HTML without actually doing it. Now, pseudo elements always start with a double colon. So like the pseudo element before. Now, you can see it with a single element. So back in the day, pseudo elements use a single colon. So you might see it like this. Or like this. But don't worry, modern browsers use both for compatibility, so you're calm either way. Now let me show you why pseudo elements are proper useful. Now imagine you wanted to style just the first line of a paragraph in something else. So let's say you wanted it to be bold and you wanted it to be bigger. Normally you'd wrap that first line in a span and then style it. But here's the problem. How many words fit on that line depends on things like screen size, font size, or even the browser window. Now you can't predict that. So wrapping it manually, it's just long and unreliable. Now, let me introduce you to the first line pseudo element. So let's say we wanted to style the first paragraph, as we just said, the first line of each paragraph in something else. So this is when we'd use something like, so let's target the paragraph within the article, and let's use first line. And let's put, similar to what we've done before, font size of 120% and font weight. And and font weight of bold. Okay, so if we save that here, we can see that that first line has changed, even on this other paragraph. Now, if we were to inspect and just change the width, let me make this a bit bigger. Actually, okay, let's say 150. So let's say we can see here bean, the word bean is being styled, but if we make it smaller, we can see that the first line is always being styled. So it's fully responsive. Now this pseudo element does the heavy lifting for you. It targets just the first line of each paragraph, no matter how many words fit in it, and updates dynamically as the layout changes. So as you can see, it's almost like there's an invisible span element around that first line, and it updates automatically. No matter how the line length changes, it always targets just that first line. Now you could use pseudo elements like first line, before and after to level up your CSS game without cluttering your HTML. All right, so let's level this up. Did you know you can combine pseudo classes and pseudo elements to get even more precise with your styling? Now let me show you how. Let's say if you wanted to make the first line of the first paragraph inside an article bold, you can chain the first child pseudo class and the first line pseudo element together to do exactly that. Now here's how it looks. So let's say we did, so similar to before, where we got article P first child. Let's say we wanted to target the first child, but then we can change the pseudo element of first line straight after. So you can see here, article P, first child, there's no break or no space, and then first line straight after. And let's do the same size styling that we've been doing. That's font size 120% and font weight of bold. Let's take it out of here so you can see that. Oh, let's actually comment out this styling that we have because it's actually messing up with that. So as we can see here, the first child grabs the first paragraph in the article. So you can see here, this is the first child in the parent element of the article. Then the first line targets only the first line of that paragraph. And then there we have it, the targeted styling without touching HTML. So we'll just do the same thing here. We can see that this is, yeah, it is unresponsive. So let's say this is happening on that first line. So you can see that first line of text. Or you know what, let's actually remove, if I remove this styling, we can see that a bit better. So you can see that the first line always gets styled with the bold and the bigger text, no matter what the width is. All right, guys, let's talk about two special pseudo elements that takes things to another level. Now, this is the before and after pseudo element. Now, these bad boys lets you generate content dynamically with CSS using the content property. So we've got this, let's say we've got this HTML in here, and you can see in the HTML is here with a class of box. Now, let's say if we wanted to insert some text before an element, we would use box, oops, it's on caps, box and then use the before element, and then we can add content to it. So let's say, now let's add, this should show before the other content. Now if we save that, we can see that it's here just before. Now we could do the same if we wanted it to be after. We could do after, and then this will now, if you see, it just swapped. Now this is the end. So after, it's for after the element, and before is for before. It's kind of in the name. But here's the thing. So with inserting the text, with using the pseudo element before and after, it isn't always a great idea for accessibility. Some screen readers might ignore it, and editing that text later could also get long for whoever's managing the site. So just use it wisely. Now, a more legit use case would be for adding some visual elements like an icon. So let's say if we wanted to do box, yeah, and we use the after, I'll just close this. And then within here, I'll do content equals, and I'll just actually copy this from off the screen. And let's say if I wanted to do that. Now, as you can see, it's added that icon after the content using the after pseudo element. Now this is perfect for things like styling links or visual indicators, especially if you don't want screen readers to pick it up. Now you can even use the before or after pseudo element to generate empty elements and style them up however you want. Now for example, we've already got this before. If I just remove this and I'll just paste this here, and you can see the styles here, we've essentially just generated a purple block before the content in CSS, just entirely without HTML, just within CSS. Now this technique is known as generated content in CSS and is super versatile. Now whether you're making arrows, badges, or even styling custom shapes, the before and after pseudo elements have your back. A great example is CSS arrow, which helps you create custom arrows using these pseudo elements. Now, whenever you see before or after, just like this in a style sheet, look for the content property. That's where the magic happens. All right, let's wrap this up, fam. So today we've broken down pseudo classes and pseudo elements, two game-changing tools for your CSS toolkit. Now, pseudo classes let you style elements based on their state, like when they're the first child or being hovered on. It's like adding a class dynamically, but without touching the HTML. Then we've got pseudo elements, like before and after, which let you style or even generate new content directly in your CSS. Now, this is proper handy for icons, custom shapes, or adding just a visual flair to your designs. These selectors keep your code clean, your styles flexible, and your workflow smooth. So trust me, once you get a hang of these, there's no going back. Now that's it for today. If this helped you level up your CSS game, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss what's next. Now, speaking of what's next, in the upcoming video, we're diving into CSS combinators. So stay locked in for that. And until then, keep grinding, keep coding, and stay blessed. Safe.